everybody. First off, I want to thank you guys for joining. We have an awesome session coming up with some amazing people. My name is Jeff Emerson from the House of Roll, and we're sponsoring this talk today. So what we're going to be discussing is what is the next-gen luxury client? What do they really want? What are they looking for? It's obviously a very important topic. And today, I'll give you a little bit of the context about what we're going to be talking about. So right now, as the new generation, the luxury homeowner emerges, it's vital to understand the ethos of younger millennials and Gen Y to shape high-end design. So today, we're going to explore trends such as individualism, multifunctional spaces, technology, and value-based product specifications. Sound good? All right. So I'm going to introduce our panel and some of the people that will be discussing your session today. So first, our moderator today is Chandler Pibble, market editor and modern luxury interiors based in New York City. Chandler identifies and reports on emerging trends, key players, and significant launches in the luxury interiors world. Then we have Hannah Goldberg, the principal designer at Hannah Charlotte Interiors, and our good friends, Xander and Keon Nori, the principal and creative director of Xander and Nori Designs. So we'd like to welcome them in to have a wonderful session. So I hope everybody enjoys and have a wonderful day.
Hi everyone, welcome to the KBIS Luxury Lounge. So we are just gonna hop right into it. I will let our speakers go ahead and tell you a little bit about themselves. Hannah, if you wanna start.
Sure, thank you so much. My name is Hannah Goldberg. I am principal designer and founder of Hannah Charlotte Interiors. We are based out of Washington, D.C., but we serve clients all over the U.S. and in Europe. Primarily in the luxury residential space, but also in the hospitality industry as well.
Hi, my name is Xander Nori, and I am the creative director of our firm. We have a multifaceted design firm that does product design, interior design, based in Southern California, and collaborate with some great companies like House of Roll and Baker Furniture. We do a lot of behind-the-scenes design, and a lot of licensed collections as well as interiors.
Hi, my name is Keon. I am the managing director of Xander Nuri, and when he designs the products, I kind of buy it from him to see if it passed mustard. And if it does, we know it's a success. If it's not, well, that's what it is.
Great, thank you. So I guess we'll start with the first thing is first. How do you source this younger generation of clients?
Mainly for sourcing, we like to go back to basics and have people look at magazines, do tactile tear-outs, or I even encourage the younger ones to like take pictures in movies. Like what movie, what scene did you like? What did you like about it? If you like any fashion elements. And then we kind of take it back away from the client and dissect them to kind of see whether it's the texture, the finish, the color combination, if it's the mood of the light in the room that kind of creates a shadow. And then we kind of put together what we think they like, and then we do a presentation, of course, with like a first pass to kind of gauge where the direction, if we're going in the right way or not.
Their perspective is always a little bit unexpected for me. Most of our clients are really the sort of parents of this generation. And so the projects that we've done for the quote-unquote millennials and the younger generation have been projects where we've done their parents' homes, and now we're doing the kids' homes. And so we kind of take an old school approach, but it's always interesting for me to see sort of where they're coming from. They usually come with like Pinterest boards and a lot of social media. Their worldview is shaped to their experiences, right? And so they're looking to their parents' homes and sort of what's around them. So we have to sometimes bring them a different perspective.
Yep, and our younger clients tend to be a little more self-made. They are building their first homes, they're gutting and renovating first homes. They have strong opinions. There's also sorts of visual information out there for them. So we try to pull them back a little from the technology and again, try to find a deep client profile based on their fashion choices, 1 or 2 images, really pair it back for them and really identify what it is that they're truly looking for. And this is oftentimes the first time they're working with a designer, so really walking them through that process very clearly and distinctly.
Yeah, Hannah, you kind of mentioned all that visual input that the younger generations have access to, and you also mentioned social media. So while you're working with these younger clients, how does that look? Would you say social media is kind of your friend or your foe?
Do you want to go?
Well, for us, I feel very strongly about this. It really is sort of our foe for us. We like to...
It could also be a tool. I do want to get into that when he's done.
The thing about the younger generation is they tend to feel like they really know what they want. So they want to... Everyone's an editor now. Everyone's a stylist now. Everyone has a Pinterest board and an Instagram, and they see what their friends are doing. And so they're the designer. And so it's different than the older generation that hires us and says, tell us what we need. And so then we have to get to know them, and we interview in the old-fashioned way, where it's like, well, where have you been? Where have you traveled? What kind of food do you like? What's your favorite color? That kind of interview. And so with the younger generation, I would say those kind of things can get in the way of their openness to accept somebody to deliver a vision for them and really elevate their lifestyle beyond what they're exposed to already.
That's a really good point, and a lot of what social media I think has done is kind of homogenized aesthetics across the interior design industry. And what I find the younger clients really want is a more personalized, tailored solution and to find and hone on their aesthetic. But they do come at this with images in mind that they've seen that they like, and I like to use that as a starting point and build on that and elevate that and layer it and tailor it as much as possible so that their space looks nothing like any space they could have seen on Instagram or Pinterest.
Depending on how old they are, we have generally experienced 2 different types of clients. The client that has, in the younger demographic, the one that is experienced with a designer, their parents had one, they know that essentially they give select input, and then the designer kind of puts together a palette and kind of churns out the project with their taste in mind. And then there's ones that have not had experiences with interior design, and they're new to it, they don't know it, but they want to come across as knowing. And like Xander said, they
don't understand the process yet.
Yeah, they don't understand the process or the reasoning why you need a designer. And we take that as a juncture to educate them to kind of become a imposterologist for imagery.
So I think that the social media is informative, right? Because it gives us a window into where they are, right? And so for them, they don't... they may not necessarily be as immersed into this industry as we are. We shop shows like KBIS that are fantastic. We know all the latest products that are out there, the latest technologies. And so we've seen it, touched it, felt it. And so we can bring that to them. But when we see what they're looking for, then it's sort of like, okay, this is where you are. Let me show you where you're going.
One thing that is very important is with all the AI that's going on now, to be able to detect whether if the image is real or not. So they're seeing this gorgeous, beautiful picture, but it's really impractical or impossible to make, or it's false advertising in some way.
Yeah, it may not fit like the project specifically, or I don't know about you, Hannah.
We haven't had anyone come to us with an AI image yet, thankfully. No.
But it's interesting because you're like, wow, if that material could do that, that looks great.
So that's one demographic of client. Then we have the other demographic that knows what an interior designer is and what they do, and they say, you know what, my parents disagree with me. They want us to go modern, but I really want it to be more classical and timeless. And they're very conscious of how much their parents are spending, given the fact that they're about 28 years old and they drive 2 G-Wagons and all that, they still are worried about how much they're going to be spending on the overall project. And that's when they come back and they tell us that we want something that's of quality, and they give us bullet points, descriptive points, and then we go through the, picture hunting.
So when you're working with a younger client who is looking for that traditional design and is really interested in investing in quality pieces, which brands do you point them towards?
Well, what's really interesting to find out is a lot of clients really like to shop antiques. And, like Amir was saying just recently, one of our clients. Of course, we work with a lot of heritage brands that we love, like House of Roll, that has amazing products like, the whole Parent and Row collection, which they may be familiar with because we've used it, in, their parents' home, for example. So
The last 3 young clients that we had, and between, I would say, 28, 30, and 35, all 3 of them were very well versed in Parent and Row, and they're like, I want to have the bathtub filler that has a telephone on it, and I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what it was, and so going to the House of Roll, you're able to shop like contemporary, transitional, classical, neoclassical. It's like a one-stop shop, so it kind of it has many facets of usefulness. And
What's been really interesting for me is specifically the millennial generation. Their parents, who are sort of the test market for every product ever made, the baby boomers, they've sort of grown up and lived with everything, and so they're looking for individuality. They're looking for products that really speak to them and define them. I think in a way that's different than just, oh, that's a cool gadget, I want that, They're also looking for technology that's smart and works for them. But we've been shocked to see that they really like formal spaces, for example, formal living rooms, formal dining rooms, and want to integrate those sort of heirloom pieces like that antique mirror or that console or chest or that chandelier. And I mean, I don't know about you, Hannah, but that's what our clients have seen. And so it's kind of like more collected and not so just straight trend or modern, right?
Yep. 100% just jumping off of that. Our clients really want spaces that feel curated over time, even if we're delivering it all and installing it in one day. They want it to feel authentic to themselves. They want it to suit their lifestyle, not be that like kind of pristine magazine or showroom floor perfect. They really want that layered and that authenticity.
To piggyback off what you're saying is we've recently specifically we've been doing a lot of projects in Italy, so we're able to have these old decaying backdrops, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a very
beautiful decaying backdrops.
Yeah, it has an elegance to it where you have all these gorgeous frescoes, and it's kind of fading, and the leafing has kind of gone away, the plasterwork is getting washed out of it, and then we pair those with contemporary pieces. So for example, in Europe specifically, modern kitchens are really in. It's a thing. They don't have the same type of shaker style of cabinetry that we have in the US a lot. So taking these old traditional lived in backdrops and then putting a very modern silhouette, beautiful glass, sculptural pieces, or a striking chrome Riebel faucet, and it just sets a juxtaposition that really makes it so unique and like Arc Digest-y, or something very
modern luxury. And like a project that we just finished, we put in our apothecary collection on lacquered brass, and so it has this really beautiful sort of antique quality to it, but the lines of it are actually quite modern. And it's in an environment that's very traditional and classic Italian. But in California, we don't have those sort of beautiful backdrops. So what we have to do is we sort of, we have the clean, modern architectural backdrops, and we have to bring in sort of the antiquity to create that story for them.
Yeah, but materials, that patina materials, that bring us back to nature, stones, a porous travertine, which is never perfect. Those bring that beauty and that really elevated quality that the younger generation wants to see. They are kind of tired of that builder grade with the quartz and the shaker, and they're ready for that new space with the luxury materials.
contrary to popular belief and really against my personal taste, where I like to always to look a certain look. I'm a big buyer of chrome because you can't kill it, you can't ruin it. But patinaed finishes, oil rub bronzes, unlacquered brasses are heavily coming back, especially with the younger generation, because like Xander said and you just mentioned right now, you have all these like contemporary modern backdrops, and these are the elements that you can, it evolves and it changes over time. And one thing we say to clients is nothing against man-made materials like porcelains and so on and so forth, but the beauty of using a natural material is it ages just like a person. So at every stage of life, you have a different layer of beauty, and as it ages, it evolves in a different new form, and it recreates the piece. And when you have a quality piece that lasts the same length of the evolution of the finish, it just is a perfect marriage of beauty.
Yeah, for us, I would say materials, we always say materials should speak for themselves. And so in that way, for me, luxury is real materials. It's real stone. It's real, like the unlacquered brass. It's going to age. They have that natural earthy quality to them that brings the beauty. So we don't like to specify a lot of faux materials. And that's hard because you have to educate your clients on those things.
So how do you go about that education?
Well, our process is really interesting. We usually meet with them first in their home in the project, and we have a conversation, and then it all comes back to the drawing board, or they come to our studio. We probably, like a lot of designers, we're very tactile, we're very hands-on. So we do large trays where we lay out every space in these trays, and so we have all the materiality for the space. We have the flooring materials, the wall materials, so it's wallpapers and stones, and with plumbing, for example, I'll even get like a handle set and I'll put it in the presentation so that they can see it. And it's so interesting to see their reaction to that kind of presentation, because immediately they're drawn to the sparkly things, to the what we call the jewelry in the room, which is like the lighting, the piece of glass, or that handle set, and they pick it up and they're like, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. We're going to have this in our house. And so, that's how we do it. It's very hands-on. I know other designers, they do a lot of, I'm not sure what your process is, Hannah, but I've seen designers do a lot of digital presentations where everything is curated on a screen and they go through it. So I think there's different ways to do that, but we tend to be old school.
We do a mix. We do the same physical boards with all the finished samples, but what I think to the education point, shows like KBIS, meeting with our reps, really understanding and anticipating what questions we're going to get from the clients about the materials. If it's a natural marble countertop, we know we're going to get asked, how do you take care of this? Do you seal it? Is it going to etch? Is it going to stain? I have young kids. I drink a lot of red wine. Like, just knowing that you're going to be addressing these questions and having the answers ready and loaded, and just knowing your design inside and out, so that you can speak to all of that to the client.
Like for clients that love like a true marble, like a Calcutta Gold or Calcutta Viola, or any marble that doesn't work like that, we'll tend to suggest like, okay, we'll put it on the backsplash. Let's celebrate it. Let's put it up on the wall. And then on your countertop, we'll do basalt or quartzite or something that is indestructible. Granite. We've been doing granite, and it's like, I can't believe we're doing granite.
Granite is in, and it's your friend, trust me. And multiple, you can put a hot pot on it, it won't break.
Like the right granite, like honed, beautiful, or that leather texture. So durability is huge. And even the younger generation cares about that. I mean, they want to know that their products are going to last and that they can take care of them.
One thing I really, and I'm sure Hannah would attest to this too, is the trust you have with a client. That is what will solidify the success of a project. And to many ways you can gain trust, but I think is always producing a project that will stand the test of time, not only in style, but in quality. And these are things that we consciously decide. We try to be as holistic as possible. So anything that has a full brass body or has a finish that won't, it won't be a surprise. If there's a living finish, they know about it. Education again in that phase. And if it does patina, prep them beforehand.
Yeah.
Hey, this is a limestone floor. It looks gorgeous, but you're going to have spots on it. You need to resurface it once every 9 months or 12 months from now.
Because the first person they call when something happens.
Their new best
Like,
friend, which is you guys. But so these are all things. And then, like, for example, we have plumbing fixtures that we put in, and they love the color of it, but they don't want it to tarnish. I'm like, well, unless you want to polish it every single day, this is the look you're getting. And so
Right. You pay extra for that patina.
yeah, you do. You really
Yeah.
do. And you need to give them the understanding of the value that you're paying for and for what you're gaining. So
So we've talked about kind of, their aesthetic preferences, durability, materials, but what would you say are their top priorities when you're working with these younger clients?
I'd say for my clients, the demographic, kind of the market sector that I'm working with, the true personalization. That's why they've come to a designer. They want you to understand them. They want you to understand their lifestyle. They want their space plan, their products, everything to work for how they live day in and day out. That is top priority. Second to that, it needs to be beautiful, but not pristine and, museum beautiful. They want to live in it. They want to enjoy their space every day. And number 3 is they want to feel just amazing in their space. They want it to bring joy and calm and peace. We find a lot of, kind of wellness spaces do that, but that's why we bring in so many natural materials, because kind of rooting the space in earth brings that just kind of calm. You want to feel calm in your home, 100%.
I don't know. The list is long for top. Steam showers, super popular with them. Not sure why. The whole wellness thing, like you said. Personalization for sure. They want it to be different and better than their friends and cousins and all of that. It's kind of the same as every other generation. I think they want to wow their circle, and they want to show, like, this is my style. This is the home that defines me, and so I think ultimately we try to bring that in a really comfortable way.
they want to have a feeling of home, a reference, because they're literally, our clients, our demographic has been like they're leaving their 14,000 square foot parents' home for their 10,000 square foot current home.
They're trying to live up to their parents' lifestyle that may not be that attainable now for them.
Especially for them, and they're trying to kind of put their own mark on things. One thing that just pops in my head that is customizable, but it has that classic elegance to it, is tubs, like a bathtub, because this is a very, very big growing demographic. We have his and her bathrooms. We have separate bathtubs. We have separate bathrooms, toilet rooms, showers. Everything is like segregated. And then the ones that are together, they want to kind of marry the taste of both of them together. So adding color to a bathtub goes a long way, and making sure like your tub, because we have a lot of pet families. So we have families like young kids that don't have kids yet, and they wash their dogs in the bathtub, and they're worried about scratching the finishes. So getting a bathtub like the VNA, which
Durability,
is near indestructible, and it's incredible. You add the splash of color on top of it, and scratch marks, like it's. We have had very great success with that. Or reinventing spaces using, pot fillers is one thing that kind of comes and goes. I made it tried and true, and we make pet stations out of pot fillers. So we have a little place for the doggy to fill up their water and have their little bed right next to it. So it's, all in one. And you're including every member of the family. Sorry.
One thing that's really interesting about this next generation, that I don't know if you've seen this in your projects, but there's been a huge shift to like open spaces, great room concepts, open kitchens, and they have lived with that, and they are asking for more like formal spaces and for the kitchen to be its own room. And I'm not really sure why, but that's been something that we've been seeing.
Similar. We are seeing a lot more kind of smaller spaces. If they are, say, buying a house that already kind of came with a big, great room, open kitchen, they want a dirty kitchen or butler's pantry or somewhere to hide the mess if you're entertaining and you're not leaving your dishes out on your big
We do a lot of back kitchens.
island. Mud rooms that are completely closed off, so that, the dirty, the shoes, the jackets, people aren't seeing all of those, but they want privacy. they want a room to go off and read on their own, kind of coziness, almost like the grand, even if in a 10,000 square foot home, the grandiosity, I'm just making up a word there, but can be so overwhelming that they need that
Sure.
proportionality, I guess.
And spaces that, like, they're planning their life. They're young, and so we've just recently, it's like just defining the map. Like, okay, this is going to be the nursery, and how many kids are we going to have, and is it going to always be the nursery, or is it going to transform into your son's room, and then we do a nursery again? And so trying to just kind of like define that for them and really talk through those spaces so we're not wasting, furnishings.
Or do you really need a home theater? Do you need a gym instead? How
Yeah, they don't like home theaters
Yeah.
that are like
No one's
defined.
in their home theaters.
Yeah, there's no more formal banquet seating and popcorn machines in the back with drapery on the sides. That's kind of gone the way of the wind, which is kind of sad for us because we have fun doing it. But there's multi-diverse spaces. So again, setting up a bar area that you can have access to like foodie areas, but then have a foosball table with a big screen TV and kind of mixture of different elements into it.
So how do you go about designing those kind of multi-use spaces that are going to flex between different parts of clients' lives?
Well, we do a lot of entertainment lounge sort of spaces where, if we're lucky, they're large enough to have a pool table that can transform into a tennis table, or often a sort of multi-use table that can be a poker table, a game table, a homework table. We get a lot of requests for that kind of thing, like where are the kids going to do homework? And then maybe that room doubles as sort of a TV viewing room too. It's a den, so it's kind of the modern den and all of that.
Those are kind of my favorite spaces to work through because we get really deep in with the clients about exactly what they're going to be doing in those spaces from a day-to-day basis and what zone A needs to be and zone B needs to be and what does it need to transform, and then it turns into a puzzle. How are we going to do this? Are we going to put something behind kind of those pocket closing cabinet doors? We see that a lot with kind of the web bars, if it's also going to be a kid's kind of game room space. And if where are we going to get that flexibility? Are we going to put kind of pieces that kind of mimic room dividers without dividing the rooms, kind of really kind of putting those puzzles together for the clients?
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of touched on it early on, but I think, this generation is so plugged in to new technology. So what kind of technologies do you see them asking for?
This is a major, even if they don't ask for it, we require.
We push it, yeah.
Yeah, we push it. We do like
you need this in your house, so.
A semi-smart home. So whether they're doing a Control4 or a Savon or an Apple iPad HomeKit type thing, it's very crucial. And with all the new technology, especially with door handles, smart locks from like brands like MTech and other things that that allow home integration, it really adds a layer of safety, especially when you're in a larger home or alone and two people, and one corner of the house you hear something spooky in the middle of the night, you can turn on all the lights in your house just with voice command or your phone.
Yeah, it's just a matter of convenience. Everything can be automated now. You can open your front door, your garage door. You can check on the kids with camera, and you can turn on all the lights, turn on the music. You can do it all voice command. So it's just a matter of convenience. So even if the home doesn't look super techy and minimalist, it has that convenience all built in.
For my clients, when I'm seeing kind of a dual path in terms of what they're requesting in technology, they're wanting that kind of hotel vibe in their primary suites where they touch a button, both layers of drapes closed, and all of a sudden it's the most blacked out room you've ever seen. At a touch of a button, the blackout drapes open, but the soft, beautiful sheers are still there, and everything just feels like they're in a luxury hotel room. So they want that kind of hospitality feel, if you will. The other is a lot of my luxury younger clients travel. Travel is so hugely important to them, and they want the peace of mind that the technology and the smart home technology can really bring. Make sure, did you lock that front door? Is there a leak detector? Because the pool house faucet.
That is amazing. Yeah, the
Something like
leak detector from Moen has one, and it's incredible that it will tell you if water is being used and you're not at home, and that really is like calm. especially if anybody has had experience that, it's a bit of a nightmare. But just to be able to get an instant thing where you can shut off your water while you're in Hawaii, for goodness sake, on vacation or something like that.
On that point of water, do you see a lot of clients that are concerned about sustainability when designing their home?
Yeah, it's a huge part of what we talk about all the time. And so for us, it's really personal. It's like sustainability for us is like, is this going to end up in a landfill? And so we're looking at designing for tried and true, trying to reuse furnishings that are great that they have, or if something has been passed down, and so it's all about really making smart decisions.
Having things that are fixable, like it's very crucial that one of the things that we want for our products that we rep and push, and like loyalty is very important to us. So we're loyal to the vendors and the brands that are loyal to us and to our clients. So if you have a problem with something, if it's fixable, that's what we want to do. We don't want to just tear out and throw away and put a brand new one in. We want something to add to that longevity of life. We, Xander and I also design furniture. So one thing that we like to do is make sure that that piece is something that you don't like scratch it and you all of a sudden see particle or something else in it. It's tried and true throughout. So whether it's brass
just better quality overall, specifying better quality and getting them to make that initial investment so that they won't want to just tear it out. We live in such a ready-ware world where everyone is like, oh my gosh, buy today, enjoy tonight, and it's gone tomorrow, and who cares, right? But
like Wally.
yeah, but if we can really think about, okay, we're going to make a good choice. We're going to invest in a good product that you're not going to want anything else. And it's something that you can live with. It's a term that's really interesting. I don't know if you hear this, but our clients, when I first heard this, I was like, what is she talking about? They call it their forever home. So this is the home that they're building or renovating. They call it their forever home. And to them, it means...
At 25, by the way.
Yeah, so for them, it means, this is the home that I want to live in for a long time. And for them, it's not an apartment, and it means they're thinking about living there for more than, let's say, 5 years, right? And so we have an opportunity and an obligation to really specify quality for them that is going to last as long as they're in that environment.
And to piggyback off of that, I think it stresses the importance of designing timeless spaces and not getting caught up in the trend cycle, in the micro trend cycle. Goes kind of back to that education, the social media kind of stuff, really getting to know your clients to the core so that you can design a space that's truly for them, that's timeless. They won't want to change it 5 years, 10 years.
I just want to also say one thing is, I think retrospectively having this discussion and thinking of things that I'm thinking of how the process works is, I think the hardest thing is educating them on patience. Because if you want something good quality that lasts the test of time, that is hitting all these marks, you're not going to get it tomorrow. It's not by and large, to buy today, enjoy tonight. It's something that you have to wait for sometimes, or something is back ordered, or it's so popular it's being sold that you need to wait a couple months for it. That is so worth the wait. And when you have the pre-knowledge of knowing that you're buying quality for them, when they get it, you have won the client in trust and everything else, and they generally stand back and let you do
They
whatever
start
you
to
want.
understand because, they, not just them, but we all live in a click economy. We click it and it arrives on our doorstep. And so it's educating them on what those brands are, what those quality products are, and how they may not know them. And once they do, they're very open to it. And I feel like then they become our biggest advocates, and they look to us for everything. Should I buy this? And it has nothing to do with their home, And we're like, okay, thanks for asking. Sure.
Well, you guys have been very patient listening to us do a lot of talking, so I would love to open it up to the audience and see if anybody has any questions. We'd be happy to answer.
If you just pick who you want me to go to.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Do you consider waterfall countertops a trend or timeless?
Trend.
Me too!
I mean, people love them, and we've done them a lot. I would say all of our older baby boomer generations have evolved into having a home that has a waterfall countertop in it.
It depends on the installation.
Yeah. What I think is really interesting right now that we're seeing is like, that's very contemporary, right? So it's interesting to use that kind of application, but mix it with something more tried and true. So it doesn't feel like it was so 2000 teens, right? So that it has like longevity. What do you think, Hannah?
I'd say I completely and totally agree. It completely depends on the installation, but we're getting requests for a lot more unique countertop edge details that can really play.
Rough edges.
Oh, I love the rough edge kind of.
Raw edge. Sorry.
And like the waterfall, let's just say that was like the beginning of something amazing. Like, look what we can do with stone. So now we're seeing like asymmetrical countertop waterfalls and like cube countertop. You know, we're doing things with stone that's like incredible. So it's all about like just taking it to the next level. And so, yeah, I think if you just have like that countertop, it feels like we did that. And
in kitchens, it's limiting depending on the space, because then you don't have cabinetry and you don't want to put a plug in there because it disturbs the beauty of the stone. It's a spiraling, experience.
I also lean towards trend on that one. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
You guys talked about this a little bit with like live materials and things like that, but do you find Gen Z talking more about like sustainability when it comes to the materials that you guys are using, like environmentally friendly design?
That hasn't popped up quite as much as I would have expected it to with my younger clients. When it comes to sustainability, what we're really pushing, very similar to kind of what you guys brought up earlier, is how can we avoid things ending up in the landfill that shouldn't end up in the landfill? What pieces do you have that are absolutely beautiful that we can recover? What can we bring in that's antique or vintage that we can save from a landfill, architectural salvage, and all those little details? When it comes to sustainability and kind of the environmental aspect, the most I'm seeing a lot of is can we go more natural and less man-made, less VOC, less plastic, less petroleum-based products?
Yeah, 100% on the more natural request. And we're pushing that too. And it just makes sense. Like if you use a natural stone, it came from the earth, it's going to go back to the earth, I think we spend so much time trying to reinvent something that is gorgeous and natural to begin with.
The other thing is, I personally don't, when we're doing a remodel or something for a client that's younger, I really don't recommend demoing every single inch of it. I really believe in, we had this home that had 12,000 square feet of crema marfel in it. I am not a fan of crema marfel at all. However, and it was high polished. If you hone the product, it's a gorgeous, beautiful, the material, the cleanness of the stone is incredible and it's expensive. It was when it was installed, it still is. If you hone it and you repurpose it and change the look of it, it becomes modern, relevant, and fresh. And you saved a boatload of money and you're not adding to a landfill. So these are the type of things that you kind of marry in between, and you take that savings and you plug it somewhere else.
But our client, we're based in California and we do a lot of projects there. We have so much regulation on water use, on materiality, on the type of foam that can be in our upholstery, on everything that we do. And so
shower water
I think it's
pressure.
very present, and we don't get any more requests above and beyond that usually. So
Do you think it will become more relevant? Do you think the industry is moving in that direction?
Absolument. I think it's going to be, I think it's not only relevant, but it's the people are looking for it, because you get more and more documentaries coming out with how we're essentially destroying the earth. And this is the younger generation that might not politically align in certain ways, but they do agree where they want to create something that if it's going to be torn out later on, they're not contributing to a problem. That's I think it's more of a conscious thing, that they don't want to be part of the problem and they can live somewhat guilt-free in certain aspects.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So you mentioned that a lot of your younger clients have never worked with a designer before, and I was curious a couple things. What program you use to manage your projects, and is that program different for your younger clients than your older clients? And any of your real luxury clients, Do you ever come across any that have also never worked with a designer? I know that was like 3 questions in one, but
I can jump in. We use My Doma Studio as a project management system, chief architect to do our drafting and our 3D views, 'cause our younger clients do love visualization as well. My Doma Studio is sometimes not the most intuitive from a client perspective, so we really have to walk them through that. It works a lot better for our younger clients than it does for our older clients, for sure.
We're really hands-on, and I would have to say the biggest difference that I see is our younger clients don't like to communicate at all. Everything is like some weird texting situation, and they don't ever come to see you or pick up the phone. So we kind of have to force ourselves in and have a conversation.
I'm sure I'm not making any friends over here. Margaret Thatcher would agree with me in that. Making enemies might be good, but we do it the old-fashioned way, where we write down, take notes. So
Yeah,
if I'm not in your presence and I'm not taking
We
notes in
do,
front of you,
a lot of on-site meetings, a lot of stone shopping in stone yards, and we're just very old-fashioned in our process, and we manage everything kind of the old-fashioned way, I would say.
we're 11 days apart. We're 38 years old. And
We still use AutoCAD, and
but we do things the old-fashioned way, and they look at us as like the grandpas in the room, because I literally will take a pen and a pad and I'll write everything down. But if you text me, I always tell people carrier pigeons will get to me before the email does.
Sometimes they ask for a rendering, right? They're like, "Can we have a beautiful rendering of the space? We want to see multiple." I'm like, "Oh my God, that's so boring. Just trust me. It's going to be gorgeous. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this." And they're like, "Really?" So that's how we
They
work.
call their parents and they say, "You worked with these people? You don't even trust me when I want to go buy a different type of milk." And they said,
Yeah.
trust us in redesigning your whole house, and you're okay with that?" And they're like,
So-
"Yeah, it kind of works that way, but."
I will say across the board, younger clients, older clients, just the luxury clients, it's all about communication and constantly anticipating their needs. So for us, we're sending weekly emails regardless, outside of our project management software. But just a reminder, this is where your project is at. This is what's going on. This is what we worked on. So they're never asking, well, what's next? When are we getting that light? When are we getting the tile takeoffs, et cetera, et cetera? We are always anticipating that. Younger or older, they just appreciate constantly hearing from you.
One bit of advice I would say from a designer to another designer is, when you're working with the younger generation, especially if they haven't experienced it, set the table for them. Set the expectations, the timelines, and also set the groundwork. Like, we are very specific on vendors and brands that we use. There's a reason why. We know what works, what doesn't, what we trust, what we can own up to, because at the end of the day, it's a customer service issue for us. We look at it as a long-term relationship, not for one home, but for 15, 20 homes. So if we can't answer to it, we won't recommend it. We'll say, you can do it on your own, no problem. We'll help you pick it out, but I don't want to have anything to do with it. But if you set the tone of, like, we're having a meeting XYZ, this is when you're going to get, you'll see that the response is going to be more of a comfort level for them to communicate back and
I
forth.
think they'll read your passion, right?
Yeah.
Like, wow, they really love this brand.
Not saying be a dominatrix, but it doesn't hurt if you kind of dominate certain type of conversations and lead and be the leading line.
Thank you very much. Love all of your comments and your insights. Can you share with us how do people find you, and what do you do to market your company?
That's a great question. Go ahead, Hannah.
Sure. I always hate answering that question like this. We're 96% referral based. I talk about myself a lot. I have people around me that talk about myself a lot, but we have repeat clients, neighbors of our clients, coworkers of our clients, et cetera, and it just kind of trickles on like that. And for me, social media is just, an extension of a portfolio. I've never kind of once gotten a client from an Instagram post, say, but I do just try to put myself out there in the community, make connections with local organizations, and kind of, I guess, a little grassroots, if you will. But again, referral.
We specialize in crazy. and we literally get referrals from different clients. And when I say that is because we have one client in particular that when she hired us, she told us specifically, I'm not going to listen to anything that you're going to say. And
Yeah, and you're like the third or fourth designer that I just fired. So
Yeah,
you're hired, but
yeah, exactly.
I want you to know that.
And she is our number one poster child. I invite her to every one of our, like, we throw these house parties for clients at the end of the completion for their guests. I always invite her over, and she generally knows everybody.
We've done like 12 homes for them now.
And she says, the best thing you can do is listen to them and don't say anything, because I did and I screwed up my whole house. And your house looks so much better than mine. And do you want to buy it? Do you want to sell it to me?
So ours is the same. It's all referral basis, and we tend to work in these really interesting circles. And like Keon said, we specialize in crazy, which we didn't choose, but it chose us. And our social media is sort of just like our perspective on what's happening. It's our vibe. It's what we're interested in, and we do a lot more stories. So it's like of the moment, where we are, you know, what appeals to us. So it's not so. I don't look at it like I'm trying to advertise to someone, because for the most part, we do have older clients too, and they're not even on those platforms. They don't even know how to get on them. So
We have one question that always gets asked of us, and you can tell me to shut up at any time, but like, how do you deal with like multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar clients? And it's really listening to them and accepting what they say and finding a way to tweak it in a way that kind of bridges your ideology and their ideology together, and gaining trust. Trust is the number one thing. The more trust you gain, even if it's a drop of it in an ocean of, you know, fear with them, that puts you one step forward, and that is what propels you level by level to go into the multi-million dollars or the billionaire clients, and their specialty is only making money.
yeah, because
Just like an artist.
they're scared. They're taking a risk on you and your firm. And for us, what we've noticed is the only reason they're doing it is because their best friend just did it, or their sister, or someone that they really admire. You know, and so we don't get a lot of just cold calls, but we get tons of referrals.
Thank you. All great comments. So I want to go back to crazy for a minute, because you get that client. You can call it OCD, you can call it whatever you want to call it, but they can't release control, they can't visualize, and you're trying to get them, after they've already hired you, and in the middle of the project, they just come unglued. How do you deal with that?
Well, this is a spiral. But I have a lot of examples. One of our clients, it was a NASA scientist. He worked in a clean room, and he actually has a medical condition of OCD.
I hope this is not being recorded, but
Is this being recorded? Okay, good. He's a great guy. Love him.
We do
I love their
him
whole
too.
family.
Yeah, trust me.
But
yeah.
you know, we've just been through everything. So like we have to go through a procedure to even go into the project of like sanitizing, washing hands multiple times. All of our vendors have to do this. And so you can imagine contractors doing this.
3 booties on top of your socks to be able to.
And so this is the kind of thing that he's talking about. And then it's the typical stuff like ordering stuff, paying for it in full, and then they're like, we don't want that anymore. Can we return it? And we're like, oh my God, okay, this is not returnable. This is, you know, so it's the simple stuff, and it's also the super crazy.
With that being said, we do specialize in crazy, but we love our clients. If we don't love a client, we don't work with them, because it's not necessarily we'll tell you, you know, we're not a good fit for you. You deserve the best. We're not it for you.
And so how to resolve it is all about just catering to them. I mean, especially on that level. I had a client kick me out of his house once. He got mad and started screaming in my face. And he was like, get out of my house.
And literally 2 years later, we designed his 17-story yacht.
And so I said, okay. And I said, okay, no problem. And I left because I knew he was mad. And he was mad about something that wasn't even a problem. So it's about you know, understanding really their tics and catering to that. You know, at that level, I guess you just have to do that. They're the client, and you're in their home, and they're buying a lot of expensive stuff from you.
I like to frame it as I love your passion when they get so into it.
That's
I love
amazing.
your passion. I love your attention to detail. I think it's fantastic that you're paying so much attention to that minutia, but you have to take the reins back somehow and gain that trust and say, this is my area of expertise. I've been through this. You're not the first person to have doubts who want to reselect the faucet for the 7th time because you don't know that that's the one you actually want. But you just have to say, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm the professional for. And you hired me for a reason, and let's reframe it that way.
Amazing. We have time for one more question. Does anybody have one?
Sorry for boring folks.
I had a question about your experience with trades. Obviously, when you're working in a luxury market, their expertise has to be even more so. Well, it really doesn't matter. It's regardless. But what's your experience with trades? And most of them that you work with, have you worked with them for a long time? Are you GCing projects, or do you work with the GC?
So we work in a lot of different ways, right? So we've worked on projects that are, 5 years out. They're planned with the GC. It's the architect ground up. Those are interesting because the GC will come in and they have their team and the people that they trust. And so early on, we try to work with the homeowner to select that company because the GC is super important and we need to be comfortable with the GC and they need to be comfortable with us. And so you can get into an issue where the GC has weak trades, like a tile guy that doesn't lay tile correctly and all of that. And so you have to kind of work around that when that happens. But when we do our projects, we recommend to the homeowner and sort of refer into the project all of our vendors that we've weeded out over the years. So we have our sort of right-hand man we have the best licensed electrician in our area, the best plumber, the best, wallpaper, the best flooring guy, the best cabinet guy, all of it. And so just like with the products that we purchase and the brands that we partner with to bring to the homeowner, we do the same thing with all of our vendors and trades. I mean, we feel very strongly about this.
Yes, and loyalty to our trades is really important in that I've worked with the same window treatment workroom for every single project, and I get to know them and they know everything that I like. So when we walk a project together, they already know how I want my pleats pinched, etc. And I get to bring them in on as many projects as I can because I really trust them. And ultimately, the trades and the vendors that I work with are an asset to my client that is part of the value that I'm bringing to my clientele. And so I have to be able to stand by them really strongly, which means I want to be able to work with them on multiple projects over and over.
Yeah, 100%. And so really quick, we, just like you said about the pleading, when you work with a vendor enough and you establish that kind of relationship and trust, they start to read your mind. They know what kind of details you love and the kind of things that they've just done on 10 other projects or are doing on 10 other projects. And so when you walk the project with them or when you're reviewing it, they're like, so are we doing this on this project? And so they're reading your mind and just, it's so much more seamless.
One thing I will say, not all of our vendors are 1,000% reliable as far as that goes, but their quality and the trust goes a long way for us. So we have vendors that I know if I book him for Wednesday, I'm getting him on Friday, but I'm willing to wait, and my client gets irritated by it.
And we prep the client. We say, look, this is the best guy for stone, but
you have to work with him this way because this is literally anybody else is going to pay you double, and you're not going to be happy with it, and he'll make you happy in any which way you want. So that also is having a leeway and understanding the cadence of the workers that work for you or that you're referring out, and you just prep the client again. As far as like general contractors and stuff, we always make it not only in our contracts, but as a big thing for everybody, even the architect that has the coffee table book, which I could care less about, that they are answerable to us because we are the ones that shop the project, shop the land, shop the contractor, shop the vendors, the materials, and the architect for the client, because we're creating a holistic like a hospitality-driven image of interior, exterior. When you're entering the house, the light, the chandelier, the feeling, the mood, the ambiance that you're creating for that whole space, and that only can be done if the vision is succinct,
Right.
and that needs to be managed
Because
by one person.
they're executing your vision, and so you need to work with the best vendors that you can, right? And so we weed out the bad ones, and we don't work with them again.
Well, Hannah, Xander, and Keon, thank you so much for taking the time, and a huge thank you to House of Roll for sponsoring and allowing us to take the time, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of KBIS.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.